Coach Mike Torres blew his whistle so hard that the sound echoed to the newly constructed Galactic Sports Exchange Arena. The place was massive, built to accommodate species from across the known universe, with gravity adjusters, atmospheric zones, and enough medical equipment to resurrect the dead, knowing his students might come in handy. "All right, listen up, you beautiful disasters," Mike shouted, his voice carrying that perfect blend of military drill sergeant and disappointed father. "Today's special. We've got visitors from the Zephron Athletic Council watching our little gym class. Tommy Chun, 16 and built like someone had stuffed a linebacker into a teenager's body, raised his hand. Coach, are those the blue guys with tentacles who keep staring at us like we're zoo animals?" "Those would be the ones, Chun. And they're not staring. They're observing. Big difference." Mike's grin turned wicked. "They think human physical education is, and I quote, adorably primitive. So today, we're going to show them exactly how adorable we can be." The Zephron delegation floated in their observation bubble, their translucent blue forms rippling with what Mike had learned was amusement. Coach ZYX, their lead instructor, had 12 tentacles, each one capable of bench-pressing what humans would consider a small car. He spoke through his translator, his voice coming out like someone gargling honey. "Greetings, human Coach Torres. We are most eager to witness your training methods. Perhaps we can offer some guidance to elevate your species' physical capabilities to something approaching adequacy." Sarah Kim, the class valedictorian who also happened to hold the school record for the 400-meter dash, snorted loud enough for everyone to hear. "Did he just call us inadequate?" "I believe he did, Kim," Mike replied, his voice casual, but his eyes gleaming with something dangerous. "Well, we can't have that, can we? Everyone warm up positions." The 42 human teenagers spread out across the arena floor. The Zephrons watched with interest as the humans began what looked like simple stretches. Coach ZYX's translator buzzed with his commentary to his colleagues. "Observe how they must prepare their primitive musculature. The Krogan youth can begin maximum exertion immediately. The Altarians don't even have muscles, just pure energy conversion. These humans, however..." He trailed off into what sounded like a chuckle. Jake Martinez, who'd been doing push-ups, paused mid-rep. "Hey, Coach, how many push-ups can Zephron do?" Mike's smile could have powered a small city. "Why don't you show them how many you can do, Martinez?" Jake dropped into position. 1, 2, 3. The counting began slowly, methodically. By 50, the Zephrons had stopped their chatter. By 100, they were pressed against their observation bubble. By 200, Jake was still going, his form perfect, his breathing controlled. "Impossible," ZYX muttered. "The gravity here is standard. How is his cardiovascular system not failing?" "That's cute," Emma Thompson called out while balancing on one hand, her entire body horizontal to the ground. "He thinks this is hard." The humans moved into their actual warm-up routine, and it was poetry in motion. They flipped, they spun, they launched themselves into the air with no assistance, no anti-gravity, no technological enhancements. Just pure, raw, human capability pushed to its limits and then beyond. "Now," Mike announced, his voice cutting through the amazed silence from the observation bubble. "Let's start with something light. Dodgeball." The Zephrons perked up. They knew this game. It was played throughout the galaxy, a test of reflexes and agility. Finally, something they could properly evaluate. Mike wheeled out a card of red rubber balls. Standard dodgeballs. Nothing special about them except the fact that they were about to become instruments of beautiful, vindictive justice. Regulation rules? Tommy asked, cracking his knuckles. "Oh no," Mike said, his voice dropping into something prehistoric and gleeful. "Prison rules." The humans split into 2 teams. The Zephrons watched as the teenagers took their positions, some bouncing on their toes, others rolling their shoulders. They looked relaxed. They looked ready. They looked absolutely terrifying. The whistle blew. The first ball moved so fast, the Zephron's advanced visual systems could barely track it. It struck Dave Wilson in the chest with a sound like thunder, launching him backward 3 feet. He hit the ground, rolled, grabbed the ball mid-roll, and fired it back before he was even fully standing. By the seven suns, one of the younger Zephron coaches gasped. Their reaction time is inhuman, Sarah suggested sweetly, having somehow appeared directly below their bubble after diving, rolling, and springing 15 feet into the air to catch a ball that should have been uncatchable. The game escalated. Balls flew at speeds that would have shattered the bones of most species. The human's dove rolled, leaped, and twisted in ways that defied physics. When Lisa Park got hit in the shoulder, she spun with the impact, used the momentum to grab two balls from the ground, and eliminated both attackers before hitting the floor. Stop. Stop. Coach ZYX's tentacles were waving frantically. This is dangerous. You'll kill them. Mike actually laughed. Kill them? This is a warm-up. Buddy, we haven't even started class yet. As if to prove his point, Tommy took a direct hit to the face that would have decapitated a Rigelian. He shook his head like a dog shaking off water, grinned with blood on his teeth, and kept playing. You're young or indestructible? ZYX asked, his voice climbing several octaves. Nah, Mike said conversationally. They're just teenagers. You should see them when they're actually trying. The dodgeball game ended with Emma's team victorious, though victorious was a relative term when everyone looked like they'd gone through a blender and loved every second of it. The humans were breathing hard but smiling, that particular brand of human smile that meant they were just getting started. Water break. Mike called out, 5 minutes. The students grabbed their water bottles, not the advanced hydration systems the Zephrons used, just simple plastic bottles. They drank, they laughed, they compared bruises with pride. Coach ZYX floated down from his bubble, his form shimmering with what Mike recognized as anxiety. Coach Torres, I must speak with you. This level of violence in education cannot be standard. Violence. Mike looked genuinely confused. This is just PE class. Physical education. We're not even at the interesting part yet. Interesting part? Yeah, the actual exercises. This was just to get them loose. Mike checked his watch. Speaking of which, break's over. Everyone to the obstacle course. The obstacle course was new, built to galactic athletic standards. It was designed to test the absolute limits of what any species could handle. It had gravity wells, plasma barriers, rotating platforms over what looked like lava, but was actually just very hot pudding, and walls that required specific biological adaptations to climb. The humans looked at it like kids looking at a playground. Time trials. Jake asked hopefully. Time trials, Mike confirmed. Current record is held by a Nexary sprinter. 12 minutes, 37 seconds. The humans exchanged glances. The kind of glances that meant someone was about to do something stupid, and everyone else was going to try to one-up them. Sarah went first. She approached the starting line, bounced on her toes twice, and then moved. The gravity well that was supposed to slow her down, she used it to slingshot herself forward. The plasma barriers that required special suits to pass through, she found the gaps in the energy field, spaces barely 6 inches wide, and threaded through them like water through a sieve. That's not possible. ZYX shrieked. The plasma should burn her. Human skin can handle brief exposure to extreme temperatures, Mike explained calmly. We evolved on a planet that tries to kill us daily. Fire's just another Tuesday. Sarah hit the rotating platforms and didn't slow down. She leaped from one to another, sometimes catching the edge with just her fingertips, swinging her entire body weight around to launch herself to the next one, the wall that required suction cups or anti-grav assistance. She found handholds that weren't meant to be handholds, tiny imperfections in the surface that her fingers could grip. She crossed the finish line at 7 minutes, 18 seconds. The arena was silent except for the sound of 41 other teenagers warming up for their turns. I can beat that, Tommy said, already approaching the starting line. He beat it by 12 seconds. Then Emma beat him by 8. Then Jake absolutely destroyed everyone with a run of 6 minutes flat, including the 15 seconds he spent hanging upside down from one of the platforms to wave at the Zephrons. Coach ZYX had stopped floating. He'd actually settled onto the ground, his tentacles limp, his color fading from bright blue to something closer to gray. This is impossible. You're cheating. Technology. Hidden enhancements. Something. Want to scan them? Mike offered. Full biological workup. You'll find nothing but pure, unfiltered human stubbornness, and about 3 energy drinks too many. The scan confirmed it. No enhancements. No technology. Just humans being humans. How? ZYX's voice was small, defeated. Mike walked over to the alien coach. Put a hand on what he assumed was a shoulder. You want to know the secret? The real reason humans are like this. Yes, please. We evolved as persistence hunters. We literally used to chase our prey until it died of exhaustion. We're built to endure, to survive, to keep going when everything else stops. And then, Mike's grin turned feral. We learned to enjoy it. The revelation hung in the air like a challenge. Coach ZYX's tentacles twitched, processing this information while his fellow Zephrons huddled in their observation bubble, their universal translators working overtime to convey their distress warbling. Persistence hunters, ZYX repeated slowly. You're telling me your entire species evolved to be relentless? Pretty much, Mike said cheerfully. Now, should we move on to strength training, or do you need a minute? Strength training. ZYX's color shifted from gray to something approaching panic purple. There's more. Tommy had already moved to the weight section, where the universal gym equipment sat gleaming under the arena's lights. The machines were calibrated for dozens of different species, with resistance settings that went from gentle flower people Xenon to angry Gormax during mating season. Hey, Coach, Tommy called out, examining the leg press machine. This thing says the record is 3,000 pounds, held by some dude from Chronos 5. That's correct, ZYX said, regaining some composure. The Chronosians are silicon-based. Their muscle density is 4 times that of carbon-based life forms. It's a record that has stood for 30 cycles. Tommy sat down at the machine, adjusted the seat, and started adding weight plates. The other students gathered around, their earlier exhaustion forgotten. This was something new. This was a challenge. This was exactly the kind of stupid thing teenagers live for. Tommy, don't break the nice alien's machine, Mike warned, but his tone suggested he absolutely wanted Tommy to break the nice alien's machine. 3,000 pounds. Tommy pressed it once, twice, 3 times. It's not that heavy, he said, confused. Are these Earth pounds or space pounds? Universal Standard Weight Units, ZYX whispered. Equivalent to your Earth pounds. Oh, then let's add more weight. For 1,000 pounds. 5,000. 6,000. Tommy's legs were shaking now, veins standing out on his neck, face red with effort. But the weight moved. Up, down, up, down. New record, the machine announced in 17 different languages. The gym class erupted in cheers. Tommy stood up, wobbled slightly, then high-fived Sarah so hard the sound echoed to the arena. My turn, Emma announced, moving to the pull-up bar. What's the record for consecutive pull-ups? ZYX consulted his data pad with trembling tentacles. 217. Set by a Vanari acrobat with specialized grip appendages. Emma jumped up, grabbed the bar, and started. Her form was perfect, each pull-up bringing her chin clearly over the bar. The count began again. 50, 100, 150, 200. You're slowing down, Jay called out. Come on, Thompson. My grandma could do better, and she's dead. Your grandma was a Navy SEAL. Emma shot back, not breaking rhythm. That's cheating. 217, 218, 219. She kept going. The Zephrons had given up trying to understand, and were now simply recording everything. Probably show their therapist later. At 300, Emma finally dropped, landing in a crouch. Her arms were shaking, but she was smiling that particularly human smile that said pain was just weakness leaving the body, and weakness had been evicted with extreme prejudice. This is insanity, ZYX muttered. Beautiful, terrifying insanity. Oh, we're just getting warmed up, Mike said. Kids, combat simulation time. The combat simulation was supposed to be the ultimate test. It pitted participants against holographic opponents programmed with the fighting styles of the galaxy's most dangerous species. Most athletic programs use it as a final exam, something to work toward over the months of training. Mike's class lined up like it was their turn at a carnival game. Sarah went first, selected random opponent, and found herself facing a holographic warrior of the Black Sun, 9 feet tall and covered in armored scales. The warrior moved with deadly grace, each strike designed to kill. Sarah dodged the first blow by millimeters, ducked under the second, and then did something that made every watching alien question their understanding of physics. She ran up the warrior's extended arm, used its shoulder as a springboard, and drove both feet into its head with enough force to dissipate the hologram entirely. Time, 4.7 seconds, the system announced. New record. No way. Jake protested. Random opponent, maximum difficulty. His opponent materialized. A swarm entity, basically a cloud of coordinated nanopredators that could attack from every angle simultaneously. The kind of thing that had wiped out entire colonies. Jake took a deep breath, then moved, not away from the swarm, but into it. He spun, creating a vortex with his body that disrupted the swarm's coordination. His hands moved so fast they blurred, each strike precisely calculated to create maximum air displacement. The swarm tried to reform, but Jake was already moving, always staying in the eye of his own storm. Time, 12.3 seconds. New record. By now, word had spread through the arena. Other species' athletic programs were abandoning their sessions to watch. The Rigelian Strength Team, the Altarian Speed Academy, even the notoriously aloof void dancers of System X had floated over to observe. Is this normal for humans? Someone asked. Define normal, Mike replied, watching Lisa somehow defeat a holographic space dragon by convincing it to bite its own tail. For humans? Yeah, pretty standard Tuesday. The real moment of truth came when Emma raised her hand. Coach, can we do team scenarios? Mike's grin could have powered a small star. Computer, load scenario. Invasion of Earth, circa 2157. The arena transformed. Suddenly, they weren't in a gym anymore. They were in the ruins of New Tokyo, holographic buildings crumbling around them, the sky dark with smoke. And descending from that sky, an entire army of Nexery shock troopers, the simulation's most challenging opponents. Objective, the computer announced, survive for 10 minutes. The 42 teenagers looked at each other. No words were needed. They'd done this dance before, in 100 different games, 1,000 different scenarios. They were humans. They were teenagers. They were absolutely about to wreck some holographic aliens. They moved like water, like fire, like something between chaos and choreography. Tommy and 3 others formed a spearhead, punching through the first wave. Sarah led a flanking maneuver that would have made Sun Tzu weep with joy. Emma somehow managed to turn the simulation's own physics engine against it, using momentum and angles that shouldn't have worked, but did because humans had long ago decided that physics was more like guidelines anyway. 5 minutes elapsed, the computer announced. Half the humans were down, tagged out by the simulation. The remaining 21 had formed a circle, backs to each other, facing outward. You know what? Jake said, breathing hard but smiling. This reminds me of last year's food fight. The one where you threw mashed potatoes at the principal? Dave asked, dodging a plasma bolt. That's the one. They lasted 18 minutes. The simulation actually ran out of enemies to throw at them and had to start recycling from the beginning. When the last human finally fell, it was because Lisa had tried to surf a holographic explosion and miscalculated the landing. The arena was silent, completely, utterly silent. Then, from somewhere in the watching crowd, slow clapping began. It spread, becoming thunderous applause from dozens of species who had just watched a group of teenage humans treat the galaxy's hardest combat simulation like a particularly energetic game of tag. Coach ZYX floated over to Mike, his colors shifting through emotions that didn't have names in human languages. I owe you an apology, Coach Torres. I called your methods primitive. I was wrong. No worries, Mike said, but ZYX wasn't finished. I was wrong because primitive implies simple. This isn't simple. This is refined insanity. This is calculated chaos. This is... He paused, searching for words. This is what happens when a species evolves on a planet that's trying to kill them, and they take it personally. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about us, Mike replied, genuinely touched. Coach, Tommy called out. Can we do the advanced course now? Advanced course. ZYX's tentacles went rigid. This wasn't the advanced course? Mike laughed, the sound carrying across the arena. This was Wednesday's light workout. You should see them when we're actually trying to push them. But they're children, one of the other Zephron coaches protested. What do your adults train like? Oh, our adults are way worse, Sarah chimed in, toweling off sweat. My mom runs ultramarathons for fun. Dad free climbs mountains without equipment. And my grandma just turned 80 and decided to take up mixed martial arts. For fun, ZYX repeated faintly. Your species does this for fun. Well, yeah, Emma said, confused. What else would we do it for? The question hung in the air, a fundamental difference in psychology that no amount of universal translation could bridge. The humans did this because they could, because it was there. Because somewhere millions of years ago, their ancestors had looked at a world full of things that wanted to eat them and decided to become the scariest thing in the food chain through sheer, stubborn refusal to quit. One more thing, Mike said, his coach voice returning. Kids, cool down time. Stretch it out. Hydrate. Good work today. The students began their cool-down routine, and it was almost more impressive than the workout itself. They helped each other stretch, checked on bruises, and made sure everyone was okay. The same kids who had just demolished galactic records were now carefully making sure their classmates didn't cramp up. They care for each other, ZYX observed. Of course they do, Mike said. That's the real secret. It's not just that humans are tough. It's that we're tough together. We evolved as pack hunters, as communities. We push each other, support each other, and absolutely refuse to let each other fail alone. As if to prove his point, Tommy was helping Lisa work out a knot in her shoulder while Sarah distributed extra water bottles, and Jake led a group through breathing exercises. Will you teach us? ZYX asked suddenly. Your methods, your philosophy, will you share them? Mike considered this. You sure you want to learn? It's not going to be easy. These kids, they've been doing this since they could walk. We start them young with things like tag, Red Rover, and the floor's lava. By the time they reach this age, they think jumping off high things and seeing who can hold their breath longest is normal. The floor is lava? ZYX questioned. A children's game where you pretend the floor is deadly and you have to navigate rooms without touching it. Emma explained, overhearing. I got really good at it. Broke my arm twice, but I got really good at it. You train your young by teaching them the floor wants to kill them? It's good preparation, Mike shrugged. For, everything else that wants to kill us. The Zephron coaches gathered, conferring in their bubble. When they emerged, ZYX's color had shifted to something Mike recognized as determination. We would like to establish an exchange program. Our young will train with yours. Perhaps they will learn that limitations are just starting points. Fair warning, Mike said, shaking what he assumed was ZYX's hand with his tentacle. Human teenagers are absolutely going to try to see if your kids can play dodgeball with plasma balls. Plasma balls would disintegrate on impact. Yeah, but imagine how cool it would look, Tommy added helpfully, as the day wound down and the various alien delegations dispersed. Spreading the story of the humans' impossible gym class across the galaxy, Mike gathered the students one last time. Good job today, everyone. You made our species look good. Pizza's on me. The cheer that went up could have shattered glass. 42 teenagers, bruised, exhausted, and absolutely triumphant, headed for the locker rooms, arguing about topping choices and whether pineapple on pizza was a war crime or genius. Coach Torres, ZYX called out one last time, what will you teach them tomorrow? Mike's grin was pure human. Swimming. Swimming? That doesn't sound so bad. Underwater hockey. Full contact. With sharks. With sharks. Holographic sharks. Usually. Sometimes the safety protocols glitch. Mike walked away, calling back over his shoulder. Don't worry. We've only lost a couple of kids, and they got better. ZYX watched the humans leave, his universal translator struggling with the concept of got better after being eaten by sharks. He made a note in his report. Humans are not invulnerable. They are something far more dangerous. They are unstoppable, and they teach their young to be the same way. The lights in the arena dimmed, but the legend was just beginning. Within cycles, every athletic program in the galaxy would be trying to understand the human secret. They would fail, because the secret was simple and impossible. Humans had looked at the universe, with all its dangers and limitations, and decided that giving up was never an option, even if it meant playing dodgeball with plasma balls. Especially if it meant playing dodgeball with plasma balls. Subscribe and like to my channel for more sci-fi stories.